It's the next level.
Hmm? Ah!
What do you suppose is in that cocoon, Charlie?
I don't know, a butterfly, I guess?
No, it's much more beautiful than that. That's a moth cocoon. It's ironic, butterflies get all the attention, but moths, they spin silk. They're stronger, they're faster.
That's wonderful, but...
You see this little hole? This moth's just about to emerge. It's in there right now, struggling. It's digging its way through the thick hide of the cocoon. Now, I could help it. Take my knife, gently widen the opening, and the moth would be free. But it would be too weak to survive. The struggle is nature's way of strengthening it. Now, this is the second time you've asked me for your drugs back. Ask me again, and it's yours.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of We Have to Go Back, Lost Revisited, from the Next Level Podcast Network. I am Ben Beck.
And I am Kristen Howell from Podcastica.
So this week we're going to talk about two more episodes, continuing on down the path, traveling back to the island. Episode 7, The Moth, Episode 8, Confidence Man. So we're getting... Charlie. I was mistaken last week when I said it was Michael's backstory for the Moth. No, it was Charlie's backstory, and then Confidence Man, we're getting Sawyer's backstory.
Yay!
We actually watched these episodes together, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, you know what? I loved it. And I invite anybody that wants to do that with us again. This week, we had to do it in a way that it was, I think, the middle of the day at two different times. And so it was literally just the two of us. But it would be really fun if anybody wants to watch it with us. We can always schedule a time that we can all watch it together. You can comment, you can not comment, you could just watch it. That way you can stay up on the rewatch. And we'll even schedule it for you for when you get to watch the shows.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a great new feature for the podcast if we just start doing like a viewing night.
Yeah.
And invite a bunch of people in, and that's how we'll do it. So we'll have more information for that towards the end of the podcast on how you can get caught up with that. But I want to say real quick before we jump into everything, and this is kind of related to the podcast because it involves one of the cast members of the show. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. You saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, right?
I did.
What did you think?
I loved it.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
My kids loved it.
Well, your kids are awesome, so of course they'll love it. No, I enjoyed it. I've seen it twice already. I saw it on opening night, and I actually took my mom to see it because my mom is into the Marvel movies as well.
So cute.
I know. No, it was a lot of fun. But of course, Evangeline Lilly is in the who we know as Kate is in it, and let me tell you something. She is a badass in that movie.
Oh, such a badass. She makes the movie.
She can carry her own movie.
Yeah, totally. I mean, her chemistry that she has with Paul Rudd is phenomenal. But yeah, she's awesome.
How could you not just want to hang out with Paul Rudd?
That's all I want to do all the time. Have you ever seen any time that he comes up behind people during interviews and everybody's like super glad to see him? I'm like, yeah, he looks like a guy that you want at your barbecue.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you ever, I know I don't think he's done it recently, but have you ever seen the big running joke he's got with Conan?
Oh, is it when he brings a fake clip?
It's the Mac and Me clip. He brings the same clip every time. and he instead of the clip of the movie that he is in, he shows the Mac and Me clip.
I love it.
And he's been doing it for like over 10 years, and it's hysterical every time he does it.
Andy Samberg recently did that with, I think, Jimmy Kimmel for Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
He said, clip.
he said, I have a clip, and it was of this cop doing a striptease dance for like 30 seconds. And he goes, I said I brought a clip. I didn't say I brought a clip of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's fantastic. I love that. I really got to get caught up with that show. I only watched like the first 2 seasons, and I got to get
the best show. Anyways, let's go to the other best show.
Yes, let's talk about it real quick. We'll let you know about the format of the podcast if you're not familiar. 2 episodes of the show covered per podcast. Every podcast will release on the 1st and the 15th of every month, so you're getting 4
Payday.
episodes. You say that every time.
I know.
And I am currently working on interviews with the cast for later on into the seasons as well. We don't want to do anything too early because we kind of want to get a couple podcasts under our belt before we start doing stuff like that. But I've reached out to a number of the cast, and I've gotten some bites back from some of their publicists, so we'll see where they happen to go with that.
Cool, man.
And of course, as we talk about each episode, we're going to bring you our top 3 moments or our top 3 points from both of these episodes, and they'll kind of intermix between the two. But with that being said, Kristen,
yes, sir.
between these 2 episodes, episode 7, The Moth, and episode 8, Confidence Man, what is your number 3?
My number 3. Well, I really enjoyed, we talk about a lot of themes that Lost has kind of throughout the entire series. And I think that in The Moth is where we really start to see the biblical nuances coming out of the show. It's been touched on a little bit with Locke saying, this is a story about, 2 sides, light and dark. And there's a Adam and Eve reference in the cave, I think last week. Excuse me, I've got something going on with my throat. And this time you see Locke is first we see Charlie at confession in the beginning. We see him struggling with kind of the darkness of what it means to be involved in this rock group, and him trying to live his life kind of on the right path. But then you also see Locke uses I'm going to ask you 3 times for your drugs. And, anybody who is a Christian or is any, deals with the Bible at all knows that, the number 3 is represented in the Holy Trinity, right? The Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. 3 is a big number in the Bible. And so I just thought that was interesting that he said, I'm only going to ask you for it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, Charlie makes his choice and he throws the drugs into the fire. And Locke is like, I'm really proud of you. And Charlie gets kind of like that do-over, right? Yeah. And so I just like it because you could pick out very early on into the series that they were working with this very nuanced biblical element that I think grows into something that's more in your face towards the end of the series. But I like it in the beginning more just because it's delicate and it's woven in very nicely. Because I enjoy symbolism. So anyways, I just noticed this episode that there was a lot of that.
No, and I agree with you completely, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's not one of my 3, but it is really one of my favorite moments of these 2 episodes. Is that moment when Locke gives Charlie back his drugs and he does toss them into the fire? Because I was really, this episode in particular, I was really starting to engage more with Locke and Charlie, who we know are 2 characters that will interact quite a bit throughout this series, and until the introduction of Ben Linus, I think were 2 of my 3 favorite characters. My 3rd favorite being Hurley, who at this point in time, he hadn't developed into one of my favorite characters yet because we really haven't seen a lot of Hurley going at this point so far in the series. So, Charlie and Locke we had seen a lot of. Locke was such a mystery, so he was already becoming a favorite character. Charlie was just a lot of fun, and then in this episode, The Moth, we get a much darker side to Charlie. Between the flashback of his story and that moment when he throws the drug in the fire, in a 42-minute time span, we're seeing his entire drug habit bookended.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
We're seeing the beginning stages of his drug habit, and we're seeing the ending you're right. For the most part, the ending of his drug habit.
Well, and he's still an addict. You know, addicts by nature are pretty selfish. And a lot of that selfishness comes out in Charlie as he lashes out to everybody throughout the entire episode. I mean, he even lashes out at Hurley and accuses him of not losing any weight and hoarding food, you know.
Well, but I think that's more of...
But that's, I think, in Confidence, man.
Well, not only that, but I think that's also more akin to symptoms of withdrawal rather than addiction. Well, I mean, which is part of addiction. And any addict will tell you that addiction is something that doesn't go away. You basically just suppress it. So it's you once an addict, always an addict, and you're just fighting those urges as you go through. You go through your life. So it's something he's continuously fighting with, and that does come up later in the series with the Virgin Mary statues that we'll talk about later on.
Another biblical reference.
It is.
What about your...
Well, I was just going to say real quick too, that moment when he tosses the drugs in the fire, it was one of those things that when you see Charlie in that state and he asks Locke for the drugs and, you know, Locke gives them to him, like it's that moment you could see the desperation in his face, and you kind of, as a viewer viewing this for the first time, you're like, oh man, Charlie, don't go down that path again. And that moment that he tosses the drugs into the fire, man, I felt so good about Charlie. And I was proud of a character just the same way that Locke was too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my number 3 actually, again, is not about characters that were the focus of the episode. My number 3 is Sun standing up for herself. And,
yes, that was one of my notes.
Okay, and we're starting to see more and more of that. There's that moment in the Moth when they're at the caves, and you know, Jin sees Sun in the dress that's kind of revealing, and he says to her, like, what are you wearing? That's not appropriate. And had this been before House of the Rising Sun, she would have been somebody who would have just turned around, walked away, and changed into something else and been completely submissive. But for one of the first times, we're starting to see her say, she says to Jin, like, it's too hot, I'm not changing.
And she holds his gaze. That was the best part.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't stand up for herself and walk away. Well, she did walk away, but she held his gaze, as in, you know, not in defiance, but just in strength. I loved it. I love it that she's getting stronger. Yeah. I agree.
No, and it was one of those great moments that, you know, you're right. She held his gaze. She stared him down, and that was her way of being like, no, this is going to end now. Like, this is a different life.
Right. And she looked at him like, it's hot, dude. It's hot. Like, there's no way I'm going to cover up. We're on an island.
Yeah, exactly. We're out in the middle of nowhere in the sun. I'm not going to cover up just because you want me to. So it's really great being able to see Sun open up, and it's really a pivotal moment, not only in her character, but in the relationship of the two of them. Because
I would agree with that.
It kind of downward spirals for a little bit before it takes that upkeep, and once it hits that upkeep, man, it becomes one of the best relationships that relationship becomes one of the best parts of the series.
Right. I told you it's my favorite arc is Jin's arc.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite one.
And I think, unfortunately, that downward spiral kind of lasts pretty much the span of the first season. He's pretty unlikable in the beginning, but that's okay because it's fun to watch it again because it's fun to see Jin in that unlikable state, to remember how far he really does come throughout the whole series. Yeah. Moving on. Number 2. What would you say is your number 2?
So my number 2 has to do, I told you before we started recording that I had 2 different points that I was putting into one, and it has to do with Sawyer, right? So, moving over to Confidence Man, what's interesting to me is that Sawyer has this self-hatred for himself where, we learn so much about him in this episode. But the one thing that we can walk away with is the fact that Sawyer has something that is kind of broken inside of him that makes him the way that he is. And he's carrying around this letter, right? That it seems to stem from all of his self-hatred. And when he almost dies, in this episode, Jack was the one that was keeping him alive while they were trying to find something for his stab or his cut or whatever. Sawyer was daring Jack to kill him. He's like, just let me die. Just let me die. And you realize that Sawyer really wants to be put out of his misery at this point. He thinks he deserves it. He thinks he deserves to die because of what happened to him, what happened to his family, what he did to other families that we learn. I think that he carries all this self-hatred for him. But on the other side of the same coin, there's a lot of hatred towards Sawyer in such a short amount of time. I mean, the things that Kate says to Sawyer are hateful and they're awful, he has tried to help her. He's tried to help the group. I mean, in very, very small little amounts. And every time he tried to take one step forward, he was like shoved back by Kate. And she has all this venom for him. And I can't understand why she would feel so strongly about him. And this was even before he was ready to let Shannon die, for something that he didn't even have. Saeed hates him and tortures him in this really horrifying way. And then Locke, who I don't think has had a lot of time with Sawyer, is really ready to throw him under the bus for what was it? What was it that Locke was blaming him for Saeed's attack, for being knocked out? He's like, well, if he, triggered the fuse to have a delayed response, he could get over to you in just the right amount of time to knock you out. And I'm sure he doesn't want to get off this island. Why would he want to get off this island? And it's a little nuts how all these people have latched on to hating Sawyer in such a small amount of time. And then you see how much self-hatred Sawyer has for himself. And it just makes for kind of a really sad situation in such a rough character.
Well, you see how much self-hatred he has for himself, and it kind of makes it understandable why all these people have this hatred for Sawyer, because you kind of hit the nail on the head a little earlier in that conversation, in that he wants to be hated. He feels like he deserves to be hated.
Right.
So he's doing all these things so people hate him. And
right.
I think it's also because he's known how he's been in the past. He says it through his backstory. And it's funny that you bring that up, because it kind of goes into my number 2 as well. And my number 2 is hard ass versus heart. Because we kind of see both of those elements, in his backstory. He says to Jack flat out when Jack is trying to save his life, if the tables were turned, I would have let you die.
Right.
Basically, as you mentioned, telling Jack, just let me die. I don't, it's not worth saving my life. Because even earlier on in the episode, Sawyer calls Jack out on his hero complex, which is something I've brought up, I think, every podcast we've done since we started this. He calls him out on it. He says, don't you have to run off and save somebody at one point in the episode. So Sawyer, while his character was still a mystery at this point, everybody, you kind of as a viewer didn't like him. You kind of wanted to hate him, which means his character is written incredibly well, because that was what they wanted to portray, and that's what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And by the end of this episode, you kind of feel a little differently. You understand his character a little bit better. And, I said hard ass versus heart. The hard ass part was, if the tables were turned, I would have let you die. But the heart part is in his backstory when he sees the kid of the husband and wife he's ready to con. He completely changes his mind because he realizes, look, this happened to me. I'm not going to do this to another kid. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to a question. When you first heard the note that Kate had read, What were your thoughts on that? Did you have any idea that this could possibly be him writing the letter, or did you just assume that was his character and that was really written for him?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to believe that I didn't believe it was him, but I did hate him a lot in the beginning, the first time through. You know, and it's probably like that crowd mentality thing, right? Oh, everybody hates him. Me too.
But I think, you know, in all fairness, I think that was what was meant to happen. I think as viewers, we were meant to hate him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%. I just, when you watch Confidence, man, you get the full story on Sawyer, and, you know, he becomes, a more sympathetic character after that. You start to see that, you know, there is good to him, and there's possibility for him, and any character that has possibility, you know, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned how that was my number 2, Hard Ass versus Heart, and kind of tied into your number 2 as well. Which brings us to number 1 for the episode. I have a lot of notes. So, I mean, even after we go over the number 1, there's a couple other things I want to quick mention before we wrap things up. And, what about you? What's your number 1 for everything these 2 episodes?
So, I've really enjoyed the themes of what, you know, every episode has, but for every single episode that we have had so far, I've seen one common theme as the blank slate theme, starting with Kate's backstory all the way in episode, 3, but the second episode, the first episode after the pilot, right? But Kate's backstory with the fact that Jack was giving her a fresh start by saying she didn't have to explain herself to why she was in handcuffs or why she was, you know, with that U.S. Marshal or whatever. You know, it kind of started off this whole every character gets their own backstory. And at the end of every episode so far, it's kind of explaining their fresh start on the island. And Charlie's, I thought, the Moth had kind of the most comprehensive story as far as that goes, just because, you know, with the whole idea of the Moth, right? When they cocoon in and they emerge a completely different species or a completely different being. And then it shows actually Charlie going through the like hole in the cave and following the Moth and emerging out, you know, and he's going through withdrawal the whole time, and he's thinking back to his drug problem, and he's lashing out at everybody, and he finally has this really honest conversation with Jack in the cave when they thought that they were going to die. And then he got that second chance, right? The third chance, really, because his second chance was surviving the plane crash. And so I think that seeing Charlie emerge from the cage or the cave and him getting his blank slate that way, it really kind of brought home to me how every single character is getting this fresh start. And it's been really fun to see how that relates to every character on an individual basis with every single episode so far.
No, I agree with you, and it's funny because yet again, your number 1 kind of ties in with mine.
I'm not surprised.
No, especially not on these episodes and on these 2 episodes, because the double meaning of the Moth is basically what my number 1 is, and you know, you touched on a lot of those things and getting the clean slate, and this is another instance in where Jack is actually kind of one of the people that influences the clean slate. He had the influence with Kate's clean slate, as you had mentioned, where he says, like, it doesn't matter, you know, what happened before doesn't matter. It's in the past. What happens now is what happens now. And it's kind of almost the same thing with Charlie a little bit this time around, in that there's that moment at the end when Hurley approaches Charlie and says, "You look awful." And before Charlie can say anything, Jack's the one that speaks up and says he's got the flu. So Jack covers for Charlie in that instance, and it's almost a quiet way of Jack telling Charlie, like, look, I'm not going to hold this against you. you've got to get through this. And once you do, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
So it's yet again Jack offering that clean slate to people. And it merely had me wondering and pondering, how many other times does this happen? Is Jack involved in the clean slate that we're getting? Because I really can't think of it offhand, but it didn't really, it wasn't anything I really thought of at this point until we started rewatching this. Mm-hmm. So it's something I'm definitely going to be paying attention to as we progress forward with watching this. But again, Charlie being the Moth and the Moth double meaning, we have that whole scene with Locke literally explaining the Moth and the cocoon. Like this is a Moth cocoon. And if the cocoon breaks early, the transition isn't finished. And in some ways, while some people might take the cave as being Charlie's cocoon and literally seeing the Moth as his way out and escaping the cave as the Moth does, I kind of see a secondary cocoon, and that cocoon is Locke. And asking him 3 times for the drugs. Mm-hmm. That third time is his actual time to escape from that cocoon. The first or second time he asked for the drugs, had he given it to him then, he wouldn't have been ready.
He would have taken him, right?
And his transition wouldn't have been complete. So there's actually a double meaning to not only the Moth, but also the cocoon, in that, again, the cave in one way is an actual physical cocoon for Charlie after he crawls in to save Jack and breaks out the way a moth would. But again, Locke, in instance, is also a cocoon for Charlie in this episode, with Charlie being the Moth.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
I'm an interesting person.
Going with the blank slates, I thought it was interesting that in Confidence Man, Sawyer gave himself permission to start over by burning that letter.
But he doesn't.
But he doesn't get that fresh start from the rest of the survivors on the island. They still feel the same way about him at the end of the episode. What's different is that the viewer feels differently about Sawyer at the end of the episode. Sawyer hasn't made amends with anybody at the end of this episode, which to me is kind of interesting. I mean, Kate understands him a little bit more, but doesn't care. So when he burns that letter, I feel like he's giving himself permission to step away from that.
But I have to correct you, though. He doesn't burn the letter. He closes the lighter at the end. He doesn't burn it.
Wait a minute. Didn't he burn it?
No. He closes the lighter at the end before burning the letter. So Sawyer
down?
So Sawyer hasn't given himself that clean slate yet either.
Oh my gosh. I think, you know what? I think I was writing down Sawyer burns his letter as it wasn't happening.
Yeah, it's one of the final scenes of that episode, in that he has the letter open to burn it, and he closes the lighter before the letter is ever lit. So Sawyer is still, through everything.
Okay, then he's the first episode that doesn't even get a blank slate.
Yeah. Because
it is. Sawyer takes a lighter to his letter, about to burn it, but he's unable to go through with it and pockets the letter right along with his anger.
Yeah. So in essence, like, this is one of those things that, Kate has been able to move on. Charlie has been able to move on. But in this story about Sawyer, he hasn't forgiven himself yet. And I think
he's not going to.
No, I think it's even a while before he ever even comes close to that. And I don't think it's until he comes face to face with somebody else again later on in this series that he's even able to move on from this. And that doesn't happen, I think, until at least the 4th or 5th season.
Yeah, Sawyer's an interesting character. Him and Saeed, because Saeed also doesn't have a lot of forgiveness for himself and his past deeds, which we see a little bit of that in the episode when he walks away and decides that he needs to leave the group.
Yeah, Sawyer's got a lot of inner demons he's fighting himself.
Right, Sawyer and Saeed, I would say. I mean, because Charlie was even
Did I say Sawyer? I meant Saeed.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And I think that, we are right in the fact that it is Sawyer and Saeed, right? But, Saeed understands that he has to walk away to conquer whatever it is that he opened back up in Confidence Man. And Sawyer shuts down on the inside, right? So he's completely broken on the inside and he doesn't really know. I don't think he has like the emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? Maturity, the emotional maturity to know that maybe he should go take a walkabout in the woods and figure himself out before he can be with other people. Like Saeed knows, okay, I gotta go. I almost killed a guy. I, unlocked the torture part of my brain again, and I have to go shut it down. Which sucks because he's about to have his own rough little time. Yeah,
for certain. Because I think it's next in the next episode, which is episode 9, Solidarity, which is Saeed's backstory. I think we're getting introduced. If I remember correctly, we're getting introduced to a new character.
I think you're right. Solitary.
Oh, Solitary and not Solidarity. Completely different thing.
A little bit.
But I think if I remember correctly, because it's tough to not continue watching as we're doing this, but I think this is the first time we're getting introduced to Rousseau.
Actually, there's a couple things in the next episode that the next episode, Solitary, is going to be amazing.
Oh, the golf game alone.
Yep.
I cannot wait. I can't wait to talk about that.
I know, but let's not do that now.
No, because there's going to be a lot of really both fun and interesting things to talk about in the next podcast when we talk about episode 8 and 9.
Isn't it interesting that it goes right from Sawyer to Saeed?
Well, but you know what though? I think it worked well because this was a point I wanted to make earlier, and it completely slipped my mind as we were talking about this because I started talking about Rousseau and how we're going to meet her next week. Is, both Saeed and Sawyer have these inner demons, and sometimes when you have two characters like this, they kind of find a mutual respect for each other, but it makes these two characters polar opposites in that they both have these inner demons, but they're allowing them to reflect on each other. We've already seen Saeed and Sawyer go at it. And fight on the beach. They've constantly blamed each other for one thing or another. We've seen the whole torture sequence with Saeed torturing Sawyer, which still made me cringe.
Oh, me too.
The
I couldn't look.
Shoots under the fingernails.
Nope.
You don't even see it, and it's still rough to see.
Still turned away.
Yeah, it's absolutely rough. So, this is an instance of two characters who both have their inner demons, but rather than it bringing them closer together, it drives them further apart because they're allowing those demons to reflect on each other. And I think it's because I think they both kind of know that each other has those demons. And I think that's something that, in a weird way, it attracts them to one another, but not in a good way.
Huh. I'm going to keep my eye out for that because that's an interesting thought.
So it's something interesting to watch as we continue forward.
I like that.
So, now that our top 3 is down, there's a couple other things I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to see if I'm sure you have some additional notes too. One thing I wanted to bring up was in episode 8, Confidence Man. I'm going to bring something up that when we were watching this together online and, we were chatting with each other, there was a comment I was waiting for it to happen, and it happened as soon as I expected it. In Sawyer's backstory, the shirtless Sawyer comment.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Came out of the ocean. Naked.
I was waiting for it. I'm like, the moment I saw that, I'm like, oh, she's going to say something. I know she's going to say something.
Of course I'm going to say something.
But, while the ladies who were watching this show were falling deeper in love with Sawyer because
dimples,
because he's that mysterious, rugged, bad boy character.
I can change him.
I can fix him. The crush that I had on my character was deepening in this episode as well, and that's Claire.
And
I was it was one of those instances, the whole Charlie and Claire peanut butter scenes in this episode I loved, because it was one of those things where, like, the ladies who have a crush on Sawyer, the I can fix him thing, when you see Sawyer and Kate hook up a little bit later on, you're like, oh, that bitch.
No,
oh,
never.
Really? Well, I know some people who did.
Oh, no.
But, as much as I had a crush on Claire at the time, I loved Charlie so much that I couldn't hate him for also crushing on Claire.
Oh, I love Claire and Charlie's whole relationship. And I just, this scene, kind of proves why you love it so much, because they're just so cute. He will do anything to make her happy. And I love it that she went along with the game.
Yeah, I mean, and you see it kind of exponentially grow in that whole aspect, as you mentioned, that Charlie is willing to do anything for Claire, and that becomes so much deeper and so much bigger as the series goes on. It starts with a jar of invisible peanut butter, and it eventually grows to the point of Charlie's sacrifice, which, spoilers, we didn't say it in the beginning. Yes, there are spoilers throughout this podcast because we're going to reflect on things that happened. But, there's, Charlie is willing to protect Claire at any point to, as I mentioned, it leads to him sacrificing himself, as the show progresses. So, and while that sacrifice is for the good of everybody, it's more for Claire and the baby as the series progresses. But yeah, so
right.
It's, that was something else that I loved about this episode, was seeing the ship, as people call it, which I still don't get that term.
Relationship.
Oh, now I get it. I really didn't get it until you said it.
Are you kidding me?
I really didn't get it until you said it. But yeah, the shipping of Claire and Charlie and the beginning stages of that, I thought was great to watch.
My gosh.
I know.
You are a nightmare.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. We're going to get notes. I'm sure people are going to say something.
That's fine.
So,
well, we talked about the torture scene, which I agree with you that it was pretty terrible. I loved it when Saeed said that his last job in the Iraqi Guard was he was a communications officer, because I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. He got them to communicate, I guess, is a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, that's exactly how you put it.
I was a communications officer in the Iraqi Guard. Oh, okay. I'm going to walk the other way now.
Yeah, but you're right. That's a good way to put it, because it's exactly, what are you going to say? You're not going to say I'm a torturer, but it's one way to put it.
Yeah, it's nice for the resume.
Yeah. One of the other things that made me kind of laugh as I went back and I rewatched this episode is, we know as viewers who have watched this series before how large this island is, and we also know that there's a second island, which we'll get to later on, as the series progresses. But what was Saeed trying to accomplish with the antenna and the triangulation? He was
trying.
No, I know what his point was. He was trying to find the source of the signal of the radio broadcast, but his triangulation size in comparison to the island really was not that big. Did you really expect to find it in that small amount of area?
I think there was a reasoning behind it. I'm not an antenna person by any.
You're not a communications.
I'm not a communications officer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know. I just asked my kids. I think they're the communications officers in this house.
But yeah, so it just made me question. I'm like, how did you expect to find the source of that signal within an area that you can still almost physically kind of see each other?
Well, I think it all stems from the fact that they had reception in one spot. And I think maybe he triangulated it using some kind of math that I'm terrible at. with whatever. I mean, the whole plan was ridiculous when Boone said, "Hey, Shannon, why don't you do this? Because I have to go off and do something else." Which I got to tell you, Boone, oh my gosh, he's the most flighty guy in the world. Can you imagine if he was leading any of these people? Jack has already had to save him from drowning. And then, in the very beginning, Boone's like, "I'm going to get a pen. We can stick it in their neck or something, And then now he has this huge job to try and triangulate something that, seems to be like a really big deal for the survivors. And he just runs away, and he gives his very flaky stepsister this kind of big job to like turn this on and do this, and she's like not even listening to him, and he just runs off to go do what? There's 40 people that can dig Jack out of a cave. You already are doing something. You already have a job, you idiot. Like, he's such a moron for most of the show. It's hard to take.
Well, you're right. He's giving his sister, who is completely irresponsible, this job that is this huge job. But also at the same time, you're giving somebody this job who you have done nothing but criticize how irresponsible they are.
Exactly.
And you are just turning around and willy-nilly giving them this job that they have to do.
But he's also a doof himself. He didn't he say he was a lifeguard? Yeah. And he was drowning in the ocean?
Yes.
Guy is a moron. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like Boone, but he's just a little too much for me.
I don't even think it's the character of Boone they liked. I think they just more liked Ian Somerhalder. Me personally, if you had to list these initial characters, Boone and Shannon were kind of at the bottom of my list.
They were throwaways.
They were throwaways until, Shannon eventually later becomes a more prominent character, and
her arc is great.
And Boone, while kind of short-lived to the show, becomes very important to the show in that Boone's character.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it, but it's the writers proved a point with Boone, and that's what I'll leave it at.
All right,
because I think we're not far off from that at this point. I think it's a little bit. Oh no, it's not until I think it's closer to the finale that happens.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, actually, I think it is the finale because it's when. No, it's not the finale because the finale is them opening the hatch.
Yeah,
it's the discovery. It's when Locke tries to open the hatch that this other event happens. So we're trying not to reveal too much. We say spoilers, but we know there are some people that are watching for the first time.
Oh, that's okay. If you're listening and we've already said that there's spoilers and you're still listening, then good for you. Thank you for listening.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Any other notes that you had before we moved on? I'm sure you probably have one or two more.
I do. I have a few. I thought it was interesting that Jack was ready to throw down on Sawyer until Kate arrived, and then he walks away and he's like, "We're not savages, not yet." And I wrote down. So he says to Kate, I believe it was to Kate, where he says, "We're not savages, not yet." And I'm thinking to myself, well, you were ready to go savage on Sawyer when nobody else was looking. So, he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth right now. I think he's letting his insecurity with Sawyer kind of show more and more, I also thought that Sawyer and Kate have way more chemistry than Kate and Jack. I've thought that from the beginning, but when they shared that kiss, in Confidence Man, I just thought it was a very hot kiss.
No, and you're right. It definitely is. But, and I think you're kind of right in that they do share more chemistry than Jack, because I think at this point, Jack is more focused on helping everyone survive. But you have Sawyer and you have Kate, who are both kind of
survivors.
Yeah, they're both survivors on their own. Kate was on the run. Sawyer was a con man. They both have these rebellious sides, which I think kind of attract to each other.
I agree.
So I think the chemistry is definitely more between these two characters, and I think more people were kind of hoping for Kate and Sawyer than Kate and Jack at this point in time.
I sure was. Yeah, I sure was. I liked Jack with the other one.
With Juliet?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Juliet was more to his speed. But I also at that same note, as the show progressed, I also liked Sawyer and Juliet.
Well, yeah, I think maybe it's just that Sawyer's a better character than Jack.
It's possible.
That's something to expand on later. But yeah.
yeah, that's for certain. Because it's weird because as you sit back and you look and you reflect on everything that we know about this show, you kind of remember Kate being the one that is like she's kind of the bouncy ball that Jack and Sawyer are bouncing between each other. Mm-hmm. They're the ball she's using to play catch, and they both kind of have their moments with Kate. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's going to be fun to watch as we rewatch this. And I kind of, this is on a different note, but it's something I noticed too, is that I'm also starting to realize that going back and rewatching this, because it has been a while since I've rewatched this series, and I'm enjoying rewatching it now with, talking about it with you every time and having the listeners involved in it too. I legitimately, for the life of me, cannot remember who it is that hit Sayid.
Oh, I know exactly who it was.
I'm sure you do. I, for the life of me, cannot remember.
I can tell you right now.
I know I should know. I want to say... Who is it? I can't remember.
It was a French woman.
It was Rousseau. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I for the life of me, I could not remember.
Oh, yeah. That one I knew. I actually, it wasn't until you said, and, there was a second island. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he's right. That's how long it's been since I've seen this, is that I'm like, there is a second island. I totally forgot about that. Like, I felt like
there's another island
so
close
we're
by.
going to have moron moments throughout this entire thing where we're like, oh yeah, duh, that happened.
We're going to have many moron moments. Like what does ship mean? I don't get it. Now I get it.
Oh, that was great. You know what? With how many times that term has been used in like current pop culture, I'm surprised that you haven't asked that question sooner.
I really haven't.
You were probably just sitting there going, what? Why do people keep saying this? Like, why are we all on a boat? I don't understand.
It's funny too. I just realized that doing 2 episodes of the show, a podcast, and now this being episode 4 of the podcast, it seems like it hasn't been too long since we've done this, but when we do 2 more podcasts, by episode 6, we're halfway through the season already.
Oh, boo. Let's slow it down.
No, I don't want to slow it down. I'm having fun. I really don't have much of anything else
I don't
left in my notes.
Yeah. I mean, most of my notes were about Charlie and his transformation, his Moth transformation.
Which I think has been, as of right now, I think has been probably one of my favorite moments from this show. I mean, we're only, again, 8 episodes in at this point. But so far, it's been one Charlie's, the Moth transformation so far, I think, has been one of my favorite backstories. I don't know if it was because Charlie was becoming one of my favorite characters at this point, but it was definitely something I was enjoying.
Nice. All right. Cool.
So, next podcast, we are going to be focusing on episode 9, Solitary, not Solidarity, which is Sayid's backstory, and then episode 10, Raised by Another, which is Claire's backstory.
Yay.
And Claire's really is where things really starts to get a little interesting. There's some new elements to things once we start with this, because there's a fortune teller and that goes into this, or it gets trippy a little bit.
Good. I can't,
right.
I like it when layers are added. So I get excited because then I get to talk more about themes. Like, I always write in my notes at the very top of the page, anything that I think is a theme. And I think that the past 2 episodes, we've had choice and temptation, and then the biblical themes. So it'll be fun to see what themes kind of stay and run throughout the entire series, and what are just kind of standalones to whatever episodes that they're tackling at the time. So
yeah. And I think this first season, it's pretty safe to say that the writers had it in mind as they were going through with these episodes, that I think there's going to be an overarching theme probably throughout pretty much almost every episode of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to be interesting to watch and try to pick up on what those themes are as we
can talk about it at the close of every season. We can even talk about anything that stuck out.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that season.
I had one other thing. Oh, yeah. One other interesting thing to point out, as we've been talking about it for the last 3 episodes, and we didn't mention it this episode, this is the first time we didn't have an eye opening to start the episodes. Neither one.
So they've already dropped it.
I think it returns, but I think they've kind of, the whole theme of the episode starting with the close-up of an eye is already dead.
Right. Well, that's okay. They've got a lot of other good things happening.
yeah, it's totally fine. So, at this point is usually where we move on to listener feedback. However, the shuffling of the recording of this podcast kind of got moved down quite a bit, and no fault to either one of us. It just was something that just happened. Life kind of gets in the way of, as it does, and unfortunately the feedback for this week kind of got lost in the shuffle as well. So we apologize that there's no listener feedback this week, but we encourage you to leave us listener feedback for the next 2 episodes, which, as we mentioned, episode 9 and episode 10, which we're going to be recording over the course of the next couple weeks. And we'll post something on both our Facebook page and our personal pages and the social media accounts and everything about ways that you can go about watching the episodes with us. Because I do like that idea. I
think it'll be fun. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I had a lot of fun watching it, and it was just the 2 of us, but I still thought it was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun being able to watch and watch together at the same time. So we're going to continue to do that. We'll do that at some point in between recordings. We will schedule that, and we'll post that on the Facebook page on ways that you can get involved, and you can be a part of that as well. But with that being said, let's mention the Facebook page and mention the other ways that you can contact us. Starting off first with, of course, the Facebook page, which I've mentioned, facebook.com/Lost Revisited.
We are on Instagram at Lost Revisited Pod.
You can email us at lostrevisited.pod@gmail.com.
And if you want to leave a message, you can record it yourself and just send it to our email address, or you could send it through Facebook Messenger if you'd like.
Yeah, because we can get it that way as well. Last but not least, we, of course, encourage you to always, as much as possible, check out the other podcasts on both of our networks that we have, Next Level Podcast Network and, of course, the Podcastica Network, which, Next Level, we've got some celebrity interviews in the works that we're working out outside of the Lost People. The DC show, the DC podcast, kind of on break. We're in our summer episodes and such, but, we're still recording every week. And Podcastica, on the Podcastica end, we've got, Stranger Things, or Strange Indeed, I think has moved on. They're not doing Lost in Space anymore.
No, they just came out with, so Strange Indeed just came out with their very last episode, Danger, Will Robinson, which was the last episode of Lost in Space Season 1. And they are moving on to, I knew this one. They're moving on to...
It's another Netflix show, and I can't remember what it's called.
I know, and now I feel horrible. Hang on. I'm going to find this out for everybody.
Yeah, it's one word. And I can't remember what the hell it's called.
It is, hang on. Castle Rock.
Oh, they're going to do, well,
Yep.
Castle Rock doesn't, when does Castle Rock debut? I don't think Castle Rock debuts for like another 2 weeks.
Well, they're probably going to take a few weeks to take a break.
But
I don't know.
But if that's the case, like I've kind of fallen behind on Strange Indeed only because I didn't watch Lost in Space.
I know, me neither.
I plan to watch Castle Rock because Castle Rock looks amazing.
Yeah, so it does say that they are going to be doing Castle Rock. So that will be the next show that Strange Indeed does. I highly recommend checking out that podcast. Rima and Sean have a really good chemistry and they're a lot of fun to listen to. And Fear the Walking Dead cast comes back in August. I believe it's August 12th that Fear the Walking Dead is coming back. So check those out.
I got to get caught up because there's a good chance I'm going to be either meeting some of those people and quite possibly even on stage with some of those people come October. So I should probably get caught up with the show. So we'll see. But yeah, it's I'm going to be listening because again, Castle Rock looks fantastic. It's any Stephen King fan I think will instantly love the show. And that's a Hulu show, not a Netflix show. So I want to
Hulu
myself. Yeah, so some great things happening on both podcast networks, and we encourage you to check out both of them as well. Any last words or last things before we wrap this up? And it's kind of been a relatively shorter episode compared to some of the past ones, but again, no listener feedback kind of shortened that a little bit. And
well, you know what? I would love to know what you're watching right now.
Not Colony, I can tell you that. I'm getting to it.
I can't even believe it either. By the way, if anybody watches Colony, feel free to message me because it's awesome. And I have nobody to talk about it with except for my girl, Jill. But it's my favorite show that's going on right now. My absolute favorite show that's going on right now. It's so good. And Josh Holloway is in it.
Yes, he is. As is Sarah Wayne Callies. Or Callies? I don't know. Sarah Tancredi. I always think of her as Sarah Tancredi, even though I've seen her as, Lori Grimes and now Katie Bowman. She will always be Sarah Tancredi to me from Prison Break. As far as what I've been watching, I've kind of been, I've still been pushing through West Wing. Here and there, I'll knock out a couple episodes of that, and I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. I've been going back and I've been getting caught up on a lot of. Well, first off, I've been going to a lot of screenings. Like I've seen Skyscraper already, which at the time we're recording this, the movie hasn't released. I saw an advanced screening of it. I saw Ant-Man and Wasp twice. I'm going to be seeing Mission Impossible as well as a number of other movies. But I've kind of been going back and rewatching a lot of older movies to see if they kind of still hold up. Two movies in particular, which I remember loving as a child, but I know are not that good of movies. I watched I watched a movie called Drop Dead Fred.
I remember that movie.
With Phoebe Cates. I watched that last week, and last night, as a matter of fact, I watched a movie that I'm surprised because I posted it on my personal Facebook page to see how many people remembered, and a lot of people still remember this movie. I watched a movie called Young Einstein.
Yay!
With Yahoo Serious. I know it's a bad movie. I watched it and I remember loving it as a kid. I haven't seen the movie in over 20 years, but rewatching it, I discovered two things. Three things. One, it's not that good of a movie. It's not that great of a movie. It's completely ridiculous. Two, it really brought me back to remember watching it as a kid and loving it as a kid. But as great, as good as the movie isn't, I do pride it on one thing. To anybody who loves music and loves like a lot of underground and relatively unknown artists, this movie has a lot of, the soundtrack for this movie is fantastic. It has a lot of great underground Australian artists that are in it. Artists like groups like Iceland and such, where, people like Men at Work and AC/DC, they're Australian artists everybody knows. But this movie has some great underground Australian artists through it that it made me really enjoy rewatching the movie.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm having fun going back and rewatching some older movies I haven't seen in a while. That's what I've been doing this summer.
Oh, fun.
What about you? What have you been watching?
I watched a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but lately I just got into the Handmaid's Tale. And I'm 5 episodes in, and I have to take a lot of comedy breaks in between each episode.
That's what I hear.
It's fantastic. The book was fantastic, so I'm really glad that it translates well to television. Elizabeth Moss is phenomenal in it. And I have so many thoughts and opinions on it, and I wish I had somebody to talk to about it. But yeah, I would highly recommend seeing that. But it's kind of like Man in the High Castle. I mean, you can watch one episode and then you got to take a break. Anybody who's binging this, please don't. It's not good for your mental health. It's just not. I watched 2 episodes in a row, and I think I became clinically depressed for a couple of days afterwards. So, but it's very, very good, very well done, but very hard to watch.
It's one I keep hearing a lot of people saying that they're enjoying it, but also they have those WTF moments after. After watching it. So I've never seen a trailer for the show. I don't know what the show is about, but I kind of like it like that, because when I do decide to go and watch it, which with as many people as I know who are, I will eventually, I kind of want to go into it completely unknown. I don't know if that's the best thing, but
we could always have our own little discussion about it too, if you want to.
At some point, at some point. I know. You mentioned Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I've been mixing in the Goldbergs into mine.
Oh, good. Yeah, everybody needs comedy. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is mine right now.
I love the Goldbergs though, mostly because it's very nostalgic to the '80s, and it happens in my area.
Oh, good.
It's from the Philadelphia area, so I see a lot of references. That I know. So, but I think that's just about going to wrap it up for this episode of the podcast. So again, we encourage you guys, as you are watching the next couple episodes, to leave us that feedback in the ways that we mentioned before. If you have any other questions, concerns, or comments, please feel free to leave them to us on the Facebook page. But I think and keep an eye out for us letting you know how you can watch the episodes with us, because we'll announce that relatively soon.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It will be. It will be a lot of fun. But another fun show recording with you, Miss Kristen.
As always, a pleasure, Mr. Ben. As my kids call you, Mr. Ben.
You know what? I don't mind it. It's better than Uncle Ben.
Which I think is great, too.
Because Uncle Ben means either you make rice in San Francisco or you died in a Spider-Man comic.
Either way, it's great.
It's fun. So, until next time, guys, we'll see you guys down the road. Take care.
Bye. See ya.
We have to go back, Kate. We have to go back!